everybody, Steve Politi from NJ Advanced Media here with another edition of the Rebuilding Rutgers podcast. I'm joined by Ryan Dunleavy, and for the first time, the big man joins the band.
That's right.
Look at that.
And this is great because we've done this for a long time. Todrick Hunter's with us, obviously. And we've done like 13 of these, and people on Twitter will say, hey, really, we love the podcast. You guys do a great job. But is it possible that you could get Todrick in there? So like, essentially they're saying, we love what you're doing. We just don't like the three of you doing this.
No.
And it'd be great if we could have Todrick. So finally, Todrick Hunter's here to talk recruiting.
By popular demand.
Popular demand.
They are too kind. They
By
are too
popular demand, because this is the biggest week of the year, essentially now. I mean, and I wanted to start with that because this is a different scene now, and I think I get the sense that people are still sorting out how this is going to work, right? You have the early December signing period versus the regular time. Give me your sense as to what's changed, how is this going to unfold, and is it a good thing?
Well, it's completely unprecedented. I think right now we're in a major fail-out process. You're starting to see some of these rocks now be overturned and sort of see some of the early results of what's going on and how it's affected the kids, the coaches, positively versus negatively. Overall, I would say the early feedback would probably be a little more so negative than positive, simply because of the pressure that it puts on some of these young guys that had until February, to make their decisions before, and they still can.
Right.
So I don't want to oversell this as this huge deal, because we were just talking Politi before we started. I mean, that's less than 2 months away, so it's not a huge difference if a kid doesn't sign now and he ends up signing later. The problem is, some of these different coaching staffs, when you got kids committed at this time of year, they can sort of start questioning your commitment level if you're so-called committed to a program and don't want to sign there. And I think that's led to some interesting occurrences. You're seeing kids, decommitting a week or two before this early signing period. You're seeing schools drop kids. I mean, a lot of times when you see these kids come out with their decommitment posts, it wasn't by choice. The schools let them go because they didn't have scholarships for them. So the schools are feeling pressure now, saying, hey, maybe it's qualification. Will this kid qualify? Being that it's so early, when we didn't get those second marking period grades, this kid's on the cusp. He could potentially be a late qualifier. We don't know if he'll make it in. We only get 25 now due to the new rule. We can't be so invested in this kid this early. Unfortunately, we have to drop you. If we still have something in February, maybe we can come back around. So I think the kids kind of get, what's a good word? Not necessarily a great thing for the kids. Now you got certain guys who don't have a whole lot of options and opportunities, who may have one offer, and it's the proudest thing that they can potentially do is to sign to a school, lock down a place to go to school, and have a chance at a life. But then you got other guys with a ton of options who things will get really interesting for after this week's over.
Todrick is an expert in like these kids, which I think is great. To me, I look at it as the school, right? Because I don't talk to the kids the way Todrick talks to the kids. I always look at it as the school. And I know Nick Saban came out and blasted this early signing period this week. And I'm thinking like, yeah, I guess if you're Nick Saban and you're preparing for the college football playoff, and now you have a early signing day that you have to worry about right smack in the middle of it, I could see where that becomes, taxing. You're splitting your focus. That sucks. For Rutgers, I think this is great. And Todrick, please correct me if I'm wrong, because I did a list this morning of 9 commits that Rutgers has lost between December 20th and signing day in the last couple of years. Patrice Renee, Saeed Blacknall, Amir Smith-Marset, Bryce Watts, these kids who might be Rutgers players if there was an early signing day in the past. And so I'm thinking if you're Rutgers or you're some, middle-of-the-road Power 5 team, this is good for you because it allows you to lock up kids that maybe you discovered, like a Bryce Watts last year, before a school swoops in January. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, Amir Smith-Marset, wasn't on his radar at December 20th of last year, but they brought him out in January. He met with Akram Wadley, and all of a sudden he's at Iowa, and Rutgers' 8 months of work on Amir Smith-Marset is down the tubes. So for Rutgers, I like it.
Absolutely, and I mean, and especially when it comes down to the key resource, being money. I mean, these coaches are putting a lot of money, into the resources of being able to recruit a kid all the way till February. Now, you don't necessarily have to put all that attention, all those resources, all of that money into flying out to check them out and doing all those tedious things you've been doing over the past few months. You can now focus on furthering your class. Rutgers has 19 guys committed to this class. They'll sign 17 of those 19 on Wednesday likely, and now they can look to shore up those other 2 guys, and then say, hey, we have an additional 6 spots here to really go out and get guys and finish off this class. So for a school like Rutgers, it's great. For a program like Alabama and some of those SEC schools, it felt like Nick Saban was really trying to speak for a lot of the other coaches in the conference. Listen, they got big money donors out there. Money isn't as much.
No one's going to feel bad for them.
Alabama's going to figure it out.
Yes,
I mean, they're going to
different ways of doing things.
Of course.
And listen, Nick Saban isn't in any danger of
I'm not taking out my violin for next
this class late, so I could certainly see why he would feel like that. But I think for most coaching staffs throughout the country, this is looked upon as a good thing. For the most part, when these kids are dropping off from these schools right before this early signing period, as I said, it's the school's decision to not move forward with those kids. So I think it does maybe hurt the kids a little bit more than it helps the coaches.
It seems like the early signing period has become the signing period.
Right.
When that's over now, is it good? Do you get the sense that if it's going to be the wild, wild west for the kids who are left? Everyone's going to have 5 or 6 slots. I mean, what do you get? Is there going to be a lot of movement in those next 2 months?
It's so unprecedented. And being that the number of spots is so limited, I mean, I could just really see it, getting kind of cutthroat.
Yeah.
It's almost like a safer thing to do. I think you take the pressure off by kind of getting this out of the way early, then fading into February now, where the pressure becomes, so much bigger. And to be honest with you, I mean, if you're a guy, with a number of options, right now, and you're not a kid within that top 1 to 300 kids throughout the entire country. And especially if you're a kid that has one offer, this late into your senior year, you should be looking to sign.
You better
early.
get
You
that.
should not be a guy that's looking to wait until February
Right.
for a school to come back to you and potentially drop you because they're able to, upsell and find something better. So, I mean, I would certainly advise some of those guys out there one offer. One strong offer, maybe 1 weak offer.
Right.
Listen, it might be time to go ahead, get signed, and then focus on doing whatever you got to do, moving towards college.
One thing I like about it real quick is we always hear every year you get the one story, and I think Tevin Shaw from Piscataway was this kid one year. You always get that one kid who, like, on January 31st, he didn't realize his offer wasn't committable, or he gets dropped, and then all of a sudden it's like this national story about, like, this poor kid who thought he had a scholarship doesn't get to. Yeah. This kind of, I think, resolves that. Like, you should know where you stand with your school in December. You now have 6 weeks to not be that kid who's on an island. You know what I mean?
All right, let's break down.
Somebody will find a way to.
You better.
Still,
Yeah, exactly. Someone's going to get screwed. All right, let's break down this class. Right now, you said we've got 19 kids, 24/7. We're the only ranking I could find. I don't know how these guys come up with these rankings, but 43rd overall in the country, 11th in the Big Ten. Do you agree with that? Is that about where this class is?
Well, what I will say is that whenever I look to rankings, I look at all of them and give respect to Rivals does a really good job. I think they found certain areas to have a lot of success. There's a lot of back and forth and communication over there, great conversation. But when I look to rankings, I usually look to 247 simply because they have the composite, which would average out the scores from all of the recruiting networks to give you one little solid ranking. So that's why I always kind of go back to that because it has a piece of all of them, and it's always been pretty good to me, been pretty solid. 43rd in the nation, that feels about right.
I just dropped to 44 as I was sitting here. I don't know how they did that. I mean, really, this is real time. It's like the election night. Oh, no! We're losing again.
And these things are so fluent because, remember, all of these schools are in there together. So a school maybe just got a commitment, and they just uploaded that commitment and they kicked the Rutgers back a little bit. I believe it was maybe early last season, they were really ranked pretty highly simply because they got kids to commit before other schools did. But those recruiting analysts for those sites will tell you as those other schools start catching up and getting their commitments, things will kind of go back to the norm, and Rutgers will be somewhere in the mean there. But hey, 11th in the Big Ten, that's saying a lot. I mean, it's probably one of the top 1, 2, 3 most talented conferences throughout the entire country. To be 11th is certainly saying something. and it feels about right. Certainly some talented guys in this class.
Yeah, what do you like about the class? Where is it strong? Where is it not strong?
Well, I mean, it's certainly you always got to start at the top, right? The single most important position on the field, quarterback. Did a great job for 2018 and 19, even locking up Zamar Wise out of Behringer, who I have is probably the best pro-style quarterback in New Jersey for next year. But then obviously flipping Arthur Sikowski from Miami is huge. I mean, mostly from a perception standpoint. I mean, this is a 4-star quarterback kid. I believe a few people dropped off his 4-star, but he's still a 4-star here on 247. Didn't have the strongest season out at IMG. You know, I mean, it's a culture shock. You know, going from playing quarterback at Old Bridge, running some option, to going to IMG and basically going through pro preparation, college type preparation, doing things that most quarterbacks at the high school level aren't doing. I mean, the 24-hour football and study and you know, work that they put those kids through, and for good reason. They're going to be high-level football guys doing it, and these are mostly guys that have a chance to go to the league, so it's understandable. It's also understandable how you could go there and not play. I mean, they've got, you know, 2 rosters. They've got 2 teams. You know,
really? They have 2 teams?
They got 2 teams. Yeah. They got a regular team that also has, you know,
this is a whole nother podcast entirely.
Oh my God, how is that legal?
It's crazy. It's an absolute factory. The campus is unreal. They got a ton of money, so they're able to scholarship kids.
Janarian Grant's going down there to draft prep.
Oh, wow.
Leonta Carew was down there.
Well, we got Sikowski and Jalen Jordan from this.
Yes.
Now,
absolutely incredible.
That was a name that when it popped, I'm like Ryan. I look at the list like, all right, who'd you get him over?
Yeah.
And if you
That's
beat
the number one.
if you beat Buffalo, I'm like, yeah, you beat. But if you beat, and that was a real list for Jalen. You see, and this is the kid that this program we don't need a quarterback, obviously, but you know, to get a 6'5" receiver, they haven't obviously had the skill players that they've had in the past. Is he the real deal? You think?
Well, I think he's a little bit of a project. He hasn't had a ton of production. But you love the 6'5", you love the 210, and he's a big, long kid who can run. So he's a matchup nightmare, right? You play him in the slot. I mean, he's too big. You know, he's too big for those smaller linebackers. You play him outside, he's obviously too big for those smaller corners. You know, he'll win those 50-50 balls. He can high point it. He can jump. He has a big vertical, and he's starting off at 6'5". So, I mean, he's certainly a guy that'll develop, you know, learn to run routes and do things a little bit more efficiently as a receiver. But I think he's a nice combo guy. Can play some inside, play some outside, maybe do some H-back. And he brings you versatility. He's a big, long, athletic kid. And he's certainly a huge pickup for those guys.
Politi and I have been screaming all season about where did the Mark Harrisons, Tim Wrights, where did those 6'5", Brandon Coleman's, where did those guys go? Well, now they have one at least on paper.
And they had the Davon Robinson kid out of Shawnee down this past weekend for the official visit.
Is he a big guy?
He's a big, long kid, too.
Okay.
He's a 6'5", 210, 220 kid as well. Probably a flex tight end at the next level. So now that you have a Jalen Jordan in there, obviously you'd love to have Davon Robinson.
And he's down to two teams, right?
Right. He's
Rutgers
down
and
to two
Baylor?
teams. It's Rutgers and Baylor. But now if you lose out on him, you know, you got an insurance policy, obviously, here in Jalen, who also has the tools to be a fine player at the college level.
All right, so now there's 19 kids in this class now. They can go to 25. You think they will go to 25?
Absolutely.
And sorry, so where are those next 6 coming? What are the prospects that you think they are identifying that, you know, they've got a good chance? And is there going to be? Do you think there's going to be? You know, are we going to look back on? Is there going to be one of those names that you're going to go, wow, you know, they got a kid to flip, or they got a kid that they weren't expecting to? Do you think that's going to happen?
I mean, there's certainly a number of guys that the staff sinks their hooks in. They do a nice job of leveraging, you know, offers and things of that nature when they have a certain position in which there's a need at. So if they have a need at D-tackle, they're not just going to offer and recruit one guy. They'll recruit a handful of guys, and then they'll prioritize those guys. And then maybe the guys at the bottom of that list will kind of wait out for some of the decisions, you know, for the guys on top. Right now, a huge position in need, obviously, being the D-line.
There's not a single D-lineman in this class right now, is there?
Right. I mean, it's, you know, they've certainly got some trouble there. I mean, they've got some guys with some position versatility that, you know, out of need, could play some defense for you, could play some defensive line potentially, but
I'm done with two-way players after this. It was a nice story with Miles National, but how about they get
some
guys?
depth. Get some depth, right?
When do we run this? we run this today, guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I think they got one this morning. That,
Really?
The kid will announce likely at some point today. And then they're
Breaking news? Come on, break some news in the podcast.
We certainly saw
This
that
would be the
Shane
first
Burnham
time.
emoji.
Right.
Yeah.
We saw Coach
Chris Farley emoji from
absolutely.
Shane Burnham.
From Shane Burnham being excited about getting a call this morning. From what I hear, is an in-state kid who's long and has a strong pedigree.
Okay.
So that'll certainly be a
Teaser
nice
alert.
pickup.
I like it.
And
Breaking news.
And they still got Chris Banks on the hook from DePaul, who came up for official visit this past weekend. Been talking with him, talking with his father back and forth. I know Chris is excited to go ahead and make a decision and kind of end this process. Was previously committed to Boston College, decommitted. But I know his father wants to make sure that he makes the right decision and that he has a true reason to make that decision. So
Right.
it'll be interesting to see if he signs on Wednesday.
Right. Okay. Do you think this is one thing we wanted to cover, though? I mean, you mentioned there's going to be a New Jersey presence. Are there enough New Jersey kids in this class? Is this something that, I mean, we talk about it a lot, and I've often thought that, if you're gonna win at Rutgers, you're gonna have to get half the top 25 kids from the state or something like that. Do you agree with this? Is this doable with only 5 or 6 kids from New Jersey?
It's doable. Is it enough? No. It's not enough when your state, generates, some of the best talent throughout the entire country.
Right.
I mean, every single year, to be such a small state, I think, per capita, we're probably the second smallest state throughout the entire country. We're probably somewhere within the top 5 to top 8 when it comes to producing talent, sending 50, 60, 70 guys a year off to FBS ball, which is a high mark, considering how small that we are. A lot of it has to do with coaching. I mean, college coaches throughout the country will tell you, man, the way these guys get coached up in this state, we got a lot of good, strong football coaches, programs, and our kids get developed, and coaches can coach them at the next level.
Why do you think, Todd? Last year they had whatever it was. I wrote the number. I should remember 17 Jersey kids or whatever. Why do you think they only had 5 this year? Is that just as simple as last year, first year coaching staff, excitement, this year paying the price for going 2-10?
Well, it's a multi-headed issue. I think Rutgers did a good job last year kind of wading through that whole why don't you have any New Jersey guys on staff? Or, why'd you get rid of all the New Jersey guys? You got all these Midwest guys out here trying to recruit these Jersey schools. What's the deal? And they did a really nice job, communicating with those coaching staffs, talking to them, showing up at their buildings, being diligent, and showing those guys some love and being open and honest and letting them know what they're about. But at the end of the day, you do have a lot of schools in this state who maybe say the right thing publicly, but don't necessarily want some of their best kids to go to Rutgers.
As an outsider, I certainly feel that.
Now, what they will do is they'll push their their marginal kids that are those high FCS, low FBS kids that just could probably do it, but just need an offer. So they'll push those kids on Rutgers. They'll beg Rutgers for a favor to offer this kid. Or that kid.
And then when you have the 6'5", 300-pound defensive man, he's going to Notre Dame.
But they're not sending you, the big dogs. They're not pushing those big dogs to you or really selling the vision of staying home to those kids. So I think that's caused, a little bit of an issue. And I think the way Rutgers looks at it at this point is, hey, listen, we're going to recruit these New Jersey kids. You throw it back. If you guys aren't interested, if we're not getting the feedback, you guys don't want to show up, you don't want to visit, you don't want to come here, we're going to go outside the state.
And I think that, again,
what else are we going to do?
I'm not an insider for recruiting, but I totally agree with that. Like, you know what? I don't want your borderline FCS kid. I'll take Raekwon O'Neal from South Carolina.
Yeah.
Like,
He wants to be here. He comes
Right.
down on a visit. It's the greatest thing since hotcakes.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe it's the change of pace from the style of life that he has. Hey, this is a really good job. In a really good area of the country. Right. Like this is and there's a great opportunity to make this thing a great thing. You got a staff in there. I'll leave it up to you, or the fans to make your own decisions on whether you think that it's the right staff for the job. But the job itself, it's great. The location is great. You're in a great conference. The opportunities are there. You just got to kind of believe and pull this whole thing together.
All right. Our next segment, we do this every week. It's true or false.
Okay.
I'm going to say a statement, and you and Dunleavy will say true or false, and then we'll come back and discuss the answers.
All right, good stuff.
All right. Number 1. we make too big a deal out of the players who come in early enrollment. True or false? Does that matter as much as
I'm going to say false.
False. Okay. Then Levy?
I'm going to say false.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to say false.
True or false? The staff is making enough inroads with New Jersey high school coaches right now. True or false?
Ooh. Define inroads.
That's the thing. You got to decide. True or false?
I'm going to say just one word answer. I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
I'm gonna say
True.
yes.
True.
I'm going to say false.
All right. Boston College is currently the program's biggest threat in New Jersey.
that's a good
True or
question.
false? False.
Wow, I like that. I'm going to say no.
False. Okay.
False.
I'd like to hear who is when you go back to the.
Well,
Yeah,
with that,
yeah,
we-
we'll
yeah.
circle
Yeah,
back.
I have a
Go ahead.
couple others here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to say true. Again,
All right.
from afar.
Well,
true.
well, then this next one is Michigan is the program's biggest threat from an in-state perspective right now. True or false?
And I'll say no.
No. Okay. You went for Boston College, so I guess that's a false for you.
I'm going to say false.
All right. Rutgers will make a splashy offensive coordinator hire to replace Jerry Kill. True or false?
I'm going to say yeah. True.
True.
I'll take true.
I'll say true.
True as well. All right. Chris Ash will add a big-time recruit to this class before the next signing period. True or false? Like a recruit that makes you go, woo, hey.
I'm gonna say, well, and it's all relative. as to
Entire
what you think
Rutgers
is-
Nation is hanging in.
Right now they are selling. Guys are
waiting
pulling
for you to
over
say it.
on 287
waiting.
right
This is
now.
it. This is the
What's he
question.
gonna say?
Well, I'll tell you, there's a couple guys that are marginal guys. There's a couple top regional guys who they're in it with, but like a real wowzer. I mean, I know there's a name that's kind of floating around, and there's some interest, kind of going back and forth from a kid somewhat local. So I'll go out on a limb and say yeah.
True.
I'll
Okay.
say yeah.
All right.
True.
False.
False.
Chris Ash will lose a big-time recruit. Now the car is not on just on has run into the median and on 287. Will Chris Ash lose a big-time recruit before this process is over? True or false?
I'm going to say, well, when you say process over, you mean Wednesday being before Wednesday?
No, I mean
or
before the class is
entire
wrapped up.
class
The
is
entire
wrapped up?
class is wrapped
Well,
up.
the cool thing is, right, they get to lock in these
Lock
guys
in these
on
guys,
Wednesday.
right,
those
lock in some of
17
these guys, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that would so that would mean we're talking about a kid that they would be adding likely after Wednesday. So it's completely hypothetical.
That's a good point. Yeah, so we're not going to lose one of the 17.
I'll say no, because if they get him that late, I mean they'll probably keep him.
All right.
I'll say false.
The 2019
I
class.
gotta get this true false thing now. It's
The-
yeses and no.
The 2019.
Again, the fans will be. They understand.
The 2019 recruiting class for Rutgers is shaping up to be better than this one. True or false? Long way to go, I know, but you can read the tea leaves.
I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna say
Okay.
yes.
True.
I'm gonna say yes.
Don't leave you have no way of knowing this, but you can answer
I have
anyway.
no. I might as well flip a coin. I mean, what do I know? I mean, literally.
Just say true.
I
Make
know what I
everybody
read
happy.
from Todrick. I'll say
All right,
true.
and the final one. Todrick is totally going to Wally Pip the hell out of Sarge and take over this podcast. True or false?
True.
That's
Absolutely
certainly-
true.
that's
There's
certainly
no
false.
question. Sarge
That's
is
true.
never coming back.
That's true.
Sorry.
I mean,
Let's be honest. Let's be honest. He's been weighing us down
Yes.
from the start.
Yeah.
It's clear.
Has the guy ever had a mean
He's
tweet?
never had a mean tweet.
He's never had a mean tweet.
He doesn't
never pisses
contribute
off a
anything.
fan base.
You figured out how to do the technical side. We don't need
Well,
him anymore.
We think so. I mean, if you're hearing this,
Well,
if you're hearing this, I figured out how to do the
That's going to be the
technical side.
problem. We're going to get done, and you're not going to have the recording. We're like, well, this is why we need Sarge.
Yes, exactly.
That's it.
And if,
That's it.
And you know what? If we need Sarge, no one will ever know it because we won't have the recording to prove.
All right, to go back to the one true or false thing I did want to cover, the Jerry Kill thing, we strongly believe that he's going to leave.
Strongly.
What's your sense now, the two of you, with the possible candidates, who's the hot name you're hearing that you think is going to be the guy?
I'll go. I'll say that I've heard quite a few names, as Sarge and I reported jointly last week. I'm going to avoid the term interview because Jerry Kill still technically has the job. I'm going to say spoken with, talked to, communicated with. We know that Ash has been in contact with Phil Longo at Ole Miss, a Jersey guy who
Seems like it'd be a home run kind of high.
Noel Mazzoni from Texas A&M, who had interest in the job last year, and one other guy, Dan Enos, who was the Arkansas OC last year, works for his friend Brett Bielema. Okay. So we know all three of those guys are going to want a lot of money.
More than the $650 that they're paying Kill?
They were all three of those guys were making more than $650.
Wow. Okay.
So they'd have to take a pay cut.
That makes it tricky.
Yeah. So I don't think it'll be one of those three guys. Some names I think are possible. I think Jed Fish is possible. Another guy, Jersey guy, makes a lot of money, but again, he's on the open market now after getting fired from UCLA. Guy I think is possible is Todd Fitch, who is one of Ash's friends. He worked with him at Iowa State way back when. He's Louisiana Tech's offensive coordinator right now. I think that's possible. Right. Guys, from the NFL, I think are possible. You got the NFL season still a couple weeks away. What about a guy like John McNulty coming back to Rutgers?
That'd
a guy
who the best offensive coordinator in program history.
Correct.
Best talent in program history, but
what about a guy? Yes, exactly. He had the best talent too. Yeah. What about a guy like Frank Signetti coming back to Rutgers? He's the Giants quarterbacks coach.
He's certainly going to be looking for a job.
We know the Giants staff
He's going to be looking for a job.
Yeah, what about that guy? He's lives at the Jersey Shore. So there's some names that I think float out, but listen, it could be pretty much anybody.
Toddrick, you knew Jerry Kill was getting this before Mrs. Kill did last year, if I remember correctly. Do you think it'll be someone that'll impress us? And do you think it matters to these? Are these current recruits going to be surprised? Or they must know it's happening? What is your sense of it? Whether this matters to them?
Well, Dunleavy would know. I think have a better feel for who that next potential guy can be. I mean, he's been doing a great job all week, really running down that stuff, chasing down leads, and put together an awesome.
I like this guy. Yeah. He's better than Sarge.
Put together an awesome list for the site for early this week. I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah. Does it matter to recruits still? Do the kids? I mean, are they going to make that commitment before they know who's going to coach them?
I think back to Saeed Blacknall flipping because they didn't have Fridge in place. Does that matter? Or?
I think I honestly don't think these kids really know who these guys are anyway. To be honest with you, I think they react to the swell of emotion behind the hires.
That's a great
but
point.
Aren't personally invested in these guys. I mean, these are guys. A lot of these. Listen, they can't relate to these guys.
Yeah. They're not looking at what Kill did in Minnesota and saying,
"Well, no one really cares." But if it's a highly accepted hire, if it's imprinted, wow, what a great hire Rutgers had. Obviously, it's something I think positive, and they want to know that you have a guy in place. I think would have been more important was to have that continuity to say, "Hey, you guys were able to, get another 100% of your wins here. Double up on your win total." I think fans were probably hoping for more. Something a little closer to 500 this year. But now you make that your goal for next season, and you were kind of hoping to have that continuity to kind of bridge that gap.
Yeah, I think we learned continuity and Rutgers aren't going again. Yeah. 9 in 9 years.
It's tough. It's tough.
And you just wonder why that is. You wonder why.
But the thing that strikes me is it's different every time. Like Fridge and Jerry Kill are retiring health reasons. Ron Prince and somebody else Ron Prince went to the NFL. Dave Brock became a head coach. Ben McDaniels obviously got fired with Kyle Flood. Signetti got fired or left with Greg Schiano. So it's never one overlapping reason. It's just like the Rutgers way, a storm of negativity of 9 different reasons.
And I don't know if people really understand what the turnover at that position means.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about completely different terminology.
Yeah.
Just different personalities and the way things are done. Some guys coach quarterbacks, some guys don't. It's a lot of little things that you have to kind of adjust to. That's why that second year is always such an important year because we normally see guys start to really take that leap. Right. They're familiar with all the terminology and everything they need to do, the places that they need to be. So that spring football. You're really utilizing that period to put yourself ahead, and you're almost in mid-season form. But now you're starting all over.
Just one 20-second story.
Okay.
For 4 years, I asked Gary Nova, who had 4 OCs in 4 years, how much does this matter? Not that much. Terminology, whatever. We figure it out. 4 years. I called him, I don't know, last year. I was like, Gary, how much did that really matter? A ton. It was such. Of
course. Of course.
It's like, why'd you lie to me for 4 years? He's like, the PR people told me.
Oh, good. I'm going to blame Jason Baum for that. All right, guys. We did our favorite segment as Todd, that you might know.
Wait,
We do the.
what about the? Can I chime in for a sec? What the biggest rival? Why you don't think it's?
Oh, right. Forgot about that.
Well, I didn't think it was Boston College simply because they recruit a certain type of kid.
Okay.
Yeah.
The main schools that they're hitting are these Catholics, these parochial schools out here. They're not offering
Getting a lot of kids though.
They are getting a lot of kids, but if you look at the list, it's a certain type of kid.
Okay.
It's not the exact.
Right.
I'd say Rutgers' brush is more broad when it comes to recruiting. So it's not, they're kind of, recruiting different pools. There's obviously some crossover there. And obviously what Anthony Campanelli is doing over there at Boston College, I'm sure that's pretty concerning.
Yep.
A coach that you kind of let go, picked up 2 national DB Coach of the Year awards, doing a hell of a job over there.
It never struck me that Anthony Campanelli was the kids he's getting at Boston College. I never thought he was getting those kids when he was here at Rutgers. It seems like he's doing a better job at Boston College than he was doing. And again, I don't know, but
it's
he's the brother of the state's most prominent high school football
coach. Then why weren't
coach.
the kids coming here when he was here?
It seemed like a guy you might have wanted to stick around.
He was a go-to guy on the staff that even if it weren't his kid specifically, you can bring around the kid and he'll talk him up, he'll love him up. Listen, he understands New Jersey high school football better than anybody. He could talk to those guys, help other guys.
It's certainly
sort
the
of
first family of.
But he was also certainly the first family. But he was also a young guy while at Rutgers. He's kind of maturing now.
That's a good point.
Into a college coach.
That's a good point.
And every single year you learn something. You take the bits and pieces
I like
that work.
Yeah.
You
I'll
leave
take
behind
that.
what
I'll
doesn't.
take that and shut up.
And he's right now in the ascension, and I think doing some really big things. And we could see maybe a coordinator role for him next, and potentially a head coaching job.
All right, we have a regular segment as well, the fan base we pissed off this week. Okay. And this is really a special one, Todd. You're going to like this. This song should be familiar.
This is a big reveal, right?
This song should be familiar to fans locally. Do you know this song? Give you a hint. There's no college football team involved. Only basketball.
I am embarrassed.
They just played the Scarlet Knights. This is the Seton Hall fight song.
There we go.
There's no words to this song, are there?
I kind of like that song.
Are there words?
I can't hear that song without picturing.
I think there's a story. Like they made up that song before the 1988-1989 Final Four. They needed a song or something.
I don't know.
Jerry Eisenberg used to write about that. We'll have Eisenberg on the podcast next week.
Okay.
How does that sound?
I can't picture that. I can't hear that song without picturing the guy, and you'll know.
Yeah, of course I know.
Flag
Exactly.
guy
You're talking about flag guy running around the court.
Yeah.
Talk about things that got old. All right. So this is a great moment.
I just pretend to be a hoops guy.
That's okay. We pretend to be recruiting guys.
With one tweet that Ryan did not even send out, he managed to piss off Seton Hall fans, Connecticut fans, and Rutgers fans. Tell the story. This is great. This is great.
So this is kind of a reveal, right? And this is what I do. I piss off fan bases. I mean, we all have our niches. Todrick's is recruiting. Yours is hot take opinions. Mine is pissing off fan bases. Penn State, Saquon Barkley, Michigan, Jim Harbaugh. So apparently this is my latest one. I'm in the press room after the game last week. After the game this past weekend, I said to Jerry Carino, my longtime buddy from the Asbury Park Press, I said, wow, Seton Hall fans better get used to Steve Peichel coaching a great game plan because they're going to see him twice a year when he leaves for UConn and UConn joins the Big East. Oh. And Carino laughed, and he was like, "Oh man, you should tweet that." I was like, "I don't know if I want to tweet that and rile people up." And he's like, "I'm like, you should tweet it and just say you overheard it." And he did. He gave me anonymity, which I'm now ruining.
And the best part about that, I saw the tweet. I'm like, I wonder who said that.
It came back to you, though?
So then Carino took all the heat for me of all these people fan base. UConn fans are pissed because we don't, of course we're better than Rutgers. Why would we take their coach? You know,
Right.
holier than thou.
Okay.
You know, Greg Schiano, Tennessee. We don't want that guy. You know?
Rutgers fans convinced that the piano is going to fall on their heads.
Rutgers fans angry that they finally found their guy, and I'm talking about him leaving, which is a compliment. Your coach is so good that another national program would want it. That's a compliment.
Right.
And Seton Hall fans being pissed that I'm basically saying Peichel out coached Willard, and he would have trouble with him, and that UConn would be in the Big East. Not the American Athletic Conference or whatever. So it had a lot of power.
It was good. That was fun.
Yeah, Carino has been texting me like, "Wow, my mentions won't stop blowing up or whatever." And I was like, "Yeah, you know what? I'll just reveal that. I'm the bad guy. I'm always the bad guy."
And it was. We were both there. It was a fun ending. It was a fun day. Did you watch the game, Todd?
I did see bits and pieces.
I mean, it was a fun. I mean, we have
absolutely.
We don't get a lot of college basketball, and we should talk about the team because I think what Peichel is doing has been great.
That's why I put him in the conversation.
They have a team with an identity now. You know, they're certainly more talented. They play hard together. They still lack several pieces. Let's be honest. But to beat Seton Hall, a ranked team, you go into the Big Ten. This team could steal some wins along the way.
And the guy's getting credit from Politi.
Yeah,
I mean, that's not an easy thing to do.
I used to be a college basketball guy back in the day. Yeah. I love me some college hoops.
Yeah, and one thing that I think is a little undersold is just that atmosphere in Iraq and what it could be. I mean,
there were some recruits on hand too, right?
And there were recruits there. I spoke with Davon Robinson, who was a New Jersey guy from Shawnee that's out in Medford. Football recruits, because those guys were there. Rutgers had 4 guys up this past week, and he was just talking about what a hidden jewel this is. We had no idea this was here or what this atmosphere would be like. And to get here and to have, all these fans right on top of you and be so passionate about a sport. And then I saw another recruit for 2019. He's committed to Rutgers already, Jaron Hayek. His older brother's currently on the roster. And he retweeted something basically saying, now we're going to do that on the gridiron. On the football field, and it gives you something to aspire to.
That's good.
We can remember when Rutgers is good. The football atmosphere is real. The football atmosphere is good. It's just
2006, 2007. I was there.
Even
2011, 12,
11 and 12.
And 11,
I mean, even 14 when they should have beat Penn State and didn't, and then they beat Michigan.
Man. Yeah, I'll tell you the electricity in the air that season when they got the Michigan win. Like you said, that Penn State game, which they should have won.
Yeah,
that was great.
They should have won. I mean, that was just it was great drama. It was great TV, and the fans. It felt. In the stands, it felt amazing, and that's something that they could potentially recapture.
I think the team is easy to root for because it's a team they can't shoot. They cannot shoot. They are brutal at shooting. But that makes them fun to watch because they're all hustle. They're a blue-collar.
They do hustle.
They're defense and hustle and loose balls kind of team, which is what fans want to see. It's great to see the three-pointer. But
the amazing part is you say they can't shoot. It's not just outside shots. They can't hit like a 2-footer, which is that is the frustrating part. Yeah. The number of shots around the basket that bounce off the rim or don't get near you. Like, what in the world? How did you play basketball for your entire life?
How are they winning these games?
It's hustle
and outworking and crashing the boards, and
we should say they do. I mean, they have some talented players who get to the basket. They get second chance points. Yeah. But just as far as just the
Steve, true false for you.
True. Okay.
But Rutgers will make 10 3-pointers in a game before Rutgers has a 300-yard passer.
Oh my gosh. I'll take the passer first. How's that sound?
Wow.
At this point, after what I saw. No, then again, I don't know. That's tricky. When was the last time they had either?
They have not had a 300-yard passer
I'll tell you,
Chris Ash.
They got a freshman. They got a freshman coming in from
friend.
California, from Narbonne High School in California, Jalen Chapman. We talked about quarterbacks, and we didn't mention his name, which has kind of been the theme of the past couple months.
That's interesting. Do you think he's the guy?
He's the guy we're not talking about. But let me tell you something, man. This young man is no flinch.
Oh, yeah?
And he is not scared of no Arthur Sikowski, no Zamar Wise. He always says the right things. He's the ultimate team guy. But in his soul, in his mind, he's going to come in here and win this job.
That's great.
Yeah. And I just love that about him. I mean, you got a couple New Jersey guys that are already entrenched here, coming to Rutgers. A lot of people coordinating those guys are fans, not the staff, but the fans. Oh, it's going to be Sikowski. It's going to be Wise. And to come all the way across the country.
That'd be something.
And to still have the confidence to come here when you still have some other opportunities. I mean, the kid just won a state title. You got to win like 1 million games in California to win a state title.
Yep.
I mean, this kid's a winner. and he threw for over, I want to say, is it 5,000 yards?
So you know what,
unreal.
You know what question's coming next? Why is he? I mean, is someone out? Is he overlooked? Is he the size thing?
He's not the biggest kid.
Yeah, okay.
But he runs in a wide open system where he's asked to do some things. He has some athletes on the outside. He plays in Cali, wide open, offense type of deal. Not the biggest kid. Probably a little bit under-recruited when you look at his productivity, but physically, not necessarily like a prototypical guy that'll get a ton of offers, which I think has kind of hurt him in that department. And it's helped Rutgers. I think he'll come in here and compete. And listen, I'm just basing that off his attitude, his confidence, the numbers that he's put up, and the amount he's won. There's something to be said for that productivity.
I totally believe it.
I look at Sikowski, I think of a guy like Tom Savage. Had a strong freshman year, but it was a solid year, but came in 4-star kid, big.
Everyone thought he was
kid,
the next
6'5". He's got some great physical tools, but hadn't really had a whole lot of production. Right? Didn't have much production at the high school level. Sikowski, first few years playing in Old Bridge, ran a lot of option football, not a lot of opportunities to really light it up.
Yeah.
Then you go to IMG, you're playing against the best team in the country every single week, so the opportunities aren't really there to light it up. And then, it doesn't finish the season as starter, but I think does benefit from, going through that college system, and coming to Rutgers. So I kind of see him as a Savage and a guy that could have a ceiling. Obviously, Tom is in the league right now playing for the Texans. But at the same time, you got to look out for this Chapman kid.
As you're talking about him, and I know their films aren't going to match up at all, right? This is a crazy comparison. But as you're talking about his attitude and his winning pedigree and his under-recruiting, you know who that reminds me of? Chase Dodd.
There you go.
Remember?
Hope he's a better player than Chase Dodd.
I said there you go, but as I'm saying it, I'm thinking the same exact thing.
Sure, except
loved him, but
Chase Dodd started probably 20 games here.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Wow.
He probably started 20 games here. I think he's in the top 10 in Rutgers passing yards in history.
Okay.
I'm not saying that's good enough in the Big Ten. I'm just saying Chase Dodd had a decent Rutgers career, and that's who that reminds me of. His only FBS offer was Rutgers. He threw for like a zillion yards in high school. He was a gritty competitor. He didn't run when Gary Nova took his job. He didn't run out the door. He fought to get it back. That's,
I've got two final questions for you, Todrick. Number one is, who do you think is the starting quarterback next year? Is it Lewis? Is it Sikowski? Are they? You had a full year of Jonathan Lewis. We didn't see if he could progress as a passer. What is it? Are we going back to old Gio? We're gonna try one more time.
I think they will be forced to. I think you'll see a little bit of two-quarterback system. I think a guy like Jay Lou will play. They'll work him in. He'll get his reps and his opportunities.
But you think game one starter is Gio?
I think game one starter is Gio.
Wow.
I think it's still situational with Jay Lou, and it depends. I know he's working with Rasiopi now, so a couple videos of things that he's doing as far as getting his feet set.
And Rasiopi has a good pedigree.
Does a good job.
Yeah.
So, listen, he could come out next year and be a world beater. Who knows? But normally that jump from year to year for quarterbacks isn't, that.
Rasiopi works with Mike Dare, former Rutgers quarterback, Phil Nelson, former Rutgers
Mike
quarterback,
Dare,
Kyle Bowen.
who I thought, could have gone big time after watching this JUCO tape. But hey, you never know when it comes to putting it all together. There's just so many different variables with, being a college student all of a sudden. Like some of these guys he'll be competing against are freshmen.
Right.
Will be doing it for the first time. So it certainly gives him some opportunity. We'll see a lot of Jay Lou. I think he could eventually maybe take over that spot.
Yeah. But the freshman, you don't think either freshman's going to get here early and be able to steal that thing?
Well,
you love Chapman, but
Chapman will be here early, and
so
Sikowski will be here early, so they do get that benefit that gives them the chance.
I think like I said, to true false. I think it matters.
It matters.
They'll be competing, and it'll be an active quarterback room with good, strong competition. I don't think it'll keep everybody honest. But at the end of the day, I don't know if we'll see him take over quite just yet.
All right, my final question. So this is something I've always wondered, and I think about other jobs I could do in this business. Like if someone made me the Yankees beat writer, I'd be working the paint counter at Home Depot. Okay. I almost feel like that's the same way with the recruiting. How do you do this job?
I couldn't do it.
I couldn't do it. I mean, how do you keep track of all this stuff? Is there a spreadsheet? Do you have like a whiteboard in your house? Do you just have it in the back of your head? You have all these phone numbers? I mean, how do you
go
do
to
this?
high school proms and like try to find the kids? Or...
Well,
There's a lot of kids.
I personally have my own database, which I use. So I have pretty much all the contact information for any kid it was marginally FBS in New Jersey over the past 10 years. You know? So that's why when these guys move on to the next level, you guys need a number or somebody else needs a number.
Yeah.
I got a pretty extensive Rolodex.
When you get a call from me and you're like,
you know what it is?
How did you get my number?
Yeah, I got a pretty extensive Rolodex as far as that's concerned. But honestly, man, it's a great part of it because you're getting to see kids compete for the passion of the game, and that being how they earn these opportunities and these scholarships before they get so jaded with just life and the real world and college, the business of college football and coaches treating them like crap. Because after they get recruited and they sign on to a
we
school,
talk about it all the time. That you have all the power in the world till signing day. Then you sign, and now you're
nobody.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not nobody, but no one really cares.
Yeah.
You know, you got all these months till the season. You pop out if you play.
Every aspect of your life is under control.
If you don't, people kind of forget about you, right? Until you start making some plays and doing some things. So that whole de-recruitment process, obviously, looms large as well.
Yeah.
I got one thing I want to ask you.
Go ahead.
Just a couple names. We don't get into why, or just give me 3, 4, 5 names, guys who could play in 2018.
From this class, I mean, I certainly like Eddie Lewis was a part of that previous class. Ended up going prep for a semester. He'll come in, provide some immediate help. I know you wanted me to be quick with this one. I love Isaiah Pacheco, just an explosive running back.
Running back. Yep.
They
need running back.
It's a position that transitions. I mean, you can go from high school to college and play running back and have success.
Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, absolutely. Early impact. I think obviously Adam Korsak,
punter.
Punter. We'll be losing Ryan Anderson, who had a hell of a year, an All Big Ten year. We'll be going on to do lots of bigger and better things. A guy like Jaden McDonald out there in Georgia. You gotta love the season.
What position? This is why we need Todrick, because I'm like, I have no idea who that is.
Linebacker just finished his season a couple days ago.
Okay.
So if you're playing this late into the year, you've obviously had some success. They won a title out there in Georgia. Had another state where you have to win 1,000,000 games to win a title.
Right.
He went out there, flew around like a bat out of hell. Had 15 plus tackles. I think about 4 or 5 sacks. And he's a guy that wasn't really on a lot of guys' radars this time of year last year. So he's also a guy, especially being from Georgia and SEC country, you got to kind of
and that's the kind of guy that I think early signing day helps Rutgers, because 6 weeks from now he might be going to Georgia.
And even now, I think you got to kind of guard against and make sure that you're keeping in touch with him. Get him all the way to Wednesday, simply because he lives so far in such an active recruiting area.
Got a Virginia Tech offer, so he's got to be pretty good.
And I think he could come in, definitely contribute on special teams, and maybe give you some reps.
There you go. There's some names, fans.
Linebacker. And another guy I want to throw in real quick, Christian Izien. He's probably the least heralded player in this class. Currently plays out of Erasmus Hall in New York. Not the biggest.
Sounds
kid.
like Hunter Hayek, a guy no one wanted.
There you go. I think a very similar situation. A guy with natural wide receiver skills can make really big plays. Great hands, great twitch after the catch. Can pick up that yardage after the catch. Great body control. I love the way he tracks the football in the air. Just a natural receiver, a guy that you could kind of take as a plug and play, even though he may not be super highly heralded. As you said, like Hayek, I think he'd come in and give you some production as a freshman.
Awesome. Look, Todrick, we've really loved having you in here. Maybe we'll do this again before February.
We might be doing this again in 45 minutes.
Oh, my gosh. If you screwed this up, that'd be the end of the time. Thanks, man. It was fun. Dunleavy, as always. And everyone, thanks for listening.
Appreciate you guys.
All right, man. All right.